Nano Machine. Bai, Ang Hongweolja. Chapter 316. Cold Blood Blockage. Part 1. Opium was once made from opium poppy, which was spread among the Jianghu and became a problem. The emperor directly ordered to stop the production of this opium, but it was still widely consumed behind the scenes. Those who were addicted to this were labeled as drug addicts. It was natural for Bunwang to become dumbfounded. Yang Danwa shook his head and told Hu Bong to stay out of their conversation. So, what was the medicine for? My sister is sick. Bunwang hesitated for a second and briefly explained his reasons. Sister? Yes. My sister has a disease that no other doctors can mend, but the medicine made by that woman worked quite well. If what Bunwang said was true, Gam Mayan was surely trained in medical practice. If she was already medically talented, and if she wasn't killed by Yowan, maybe she might have become the future godly doctor. I see. I guess you have the right to be angry when you saw her dead, then. Yang Danwa spoke understandingly, but he was still eyeing Bunwang suspiciously. This was because Bunwang said he would say everything, but he wasn't going into the details. He's hiding all the specific details. Of course, there was no torture or threats involved, so maybe this was because Bunwang was relaxed. That's when Yowan, who had been watching silently, walked over. Ugh. Bunwang found himself becoming afraid of the man who made him pass out with a simple finger snap. Yowan seemed to be even younger than him, but the power was enormous, as if Bunwang was in front of his father. Maybe he just looks younger because of body reconstruction. He heard that when one that reached the end stage of the superior master level, they would go through body reconstruction to look younger. His father almost swore that no one ever reached the end stage of the super master level warrior other than Bunwang. Yeah, that must be it. He should be way older than he looks. Bunwang felt a little better after thinking of it that way. Chen Yowan then walked up to him and looked down coldly as he spoke. You misunderstood us. What? You think we want a friendly chat? Answer correctly if you want to live. If you skip all the details again, I'll destroy your internal energy and feed you to wild animals. Ugh. Isn't that too, okay? Chen Yowan then got back and retreated to his seat and watched Yang Danwa. His threat actually worked. Damn it. That guy is cold-hearted. With Yowan's cold threat that had no sign of any jokes, Bunwang had to go into the detail he hid at first. He felt like he would die if he didn't. Actually, my sister is in a serious state. What disease does your sister have? Other people just call it blood blockage, but that woman doctor told me it's cold blood blockage. Cold blood blockage? Yang Danwa bichama shoket. He seemed genuinely shocked, so Yowan did not know about the name, became curious and asked Nano, do you know what that is? There is no recorded data regarding said name of illness. Nano did not know. Of course, even blood blockage wasn't what was known in the future. Blood blockage was a disease where the inside of qi in the body was too strong and it blocked the blood circulation, where many young girls of Yulin suffered. But the cold blood blockage was similar and also quite different. Elderiang. Do you know what that is? Yowan asked and Yang Danwa explained what he knew. Cold blood blockage was a legendary disease known to be uncurable even in Yulin. The person who suffered from the disease was said to acquire an infinite amount of yin qi. But this was also sort of a qi where a patient was said to be allowed to contain an infinite amount of internal energy full of yin qi. It looked good on paper, but the human body had to balance the yin and yen. With only yin taking over the body, it directly impacted the lifespan. It was known that the person who suffered from the disease would die before the age of 20 due to severe side effects of broken balance. That's interesting. I have never heard of the disease existing in real life until today. Yang Danwa heard this was a legend, but if the granddaughter of the godly doctor identified it as such, then it wasn't to be ignored. Bunwang became grim after explaining his sister's state. I used all of the medicine I had, and her seizure is increasing. What should I do now? The reason why Bunwang came here was to get the medicine from Gam Mayan. He then remembered Yang Danwa saying they were here to rescue Gam Mayan because of her grandmother asking them to rescue her. Bunwang asked carefully, is the grandmother of that woman also a doctor? Yang Danwa narrowed his eyes. It wasn't because he asked the identity of Gam Mayan's grandmother. It was because of the fact that the man, seemingly the successor of martial dual sword Wang Jing, was in need of an exceptional doctor. My lord. Did you hear what he said? Maybe we can use it to our advantage. Yes. Chen Yowan was also thinking of similar things as Yang Danwa. Sister of Bunwang must have a relationship with Wang Jing, so if they helped her, it might be likely that they can be friends with Wang Jing. And even if Bunwang wasn't Wang Jing's Successor, it looked good enough to befriend such a powerful warrior. Yoan nodded and Yang Danwa spoke to him. Yes. Actually she is a better doctor than Gam Mayan ever was. Gam Mayan herself learned from her grandmother. Oh. Is that true? Bunwang became excited. This was the good news that he could ever hope for. Bunwang became excited and asked, if it's not too much, can I ask her to take a look at my... That's when a chilling presence of energy unleashed, making everyone around to feel a large explosion fill the entire mountain. All of them turned northwest. And no. Chapter 317. Cold Blood Blockage. Part 2. Bunwang, who was tied on the tree, frowned. His internal energy was sealed from circulating, but this unique chilly feeling was familiar. It was the sign of his sister going berserk. No way. It's only been 4 hours. It hadn't been that long since Bunwang gave her the last dose of medicine. He thought it would last at least a day, but it was frustrating that he felt the energy which proved that her state was going worse. It's close. Yoan narrowed his eyes. Master, what is this energy? Yang Danwa Bichama Shukket. The energy was coming from the northwest, near a mountain hill. It was close, but it was still astounding to feel such cold energy clearly coming towards them. Bunwang shouted frantically. It's my sister. Sister? She's going berserk. This energy is coming from your sister? Yang Danwa Bichama Grim. He heard the legend that the one who suffered from cold blood blockage would have an infinite amount of yin qi, but this was more than he imagined. He didn't think that the energy would be so vast that they could feel it clearly from such a distance. I have to go take my sister down, or it will become dangerous. Please let me know. Asham. I guess this amount of energy is surely dangerous for her. Bunwang couldn't correct Yang Danwa. The danger wasn't only directly from his sister in this case. He couldn't even imagine what his sister would do if she went full berserk. That's when Yoan unsealed Bunwang. Bunwang's internal energy began to circulate and revolve around and Bunwang, ripping the rope that tied him apart. Yoan ordered, take the lead. Okay. Bunwang nodded and charged out toward the direction, while Yoan and Baki followed. Yoan ordered Yang Danwa and Hu Bong to stay behind with the baby. After moving through the mountain for about 3 miles, they soon arrived at the place. It was late spring, with trees turning green, but the area around was like a harsh winter. Everything was cold and all the bushes turned white from being frozen. All the leaves froze up and dropped to the ground, only to be shattered, and even the branches were frozen solid. This area of this coldness was only growing toward the west. Toward the center, Yoan and his group ran straight in. Baki was astounded each time he let out his breath when it turned white. This was quite astonishing as they were far out from winter. And the coldness only grew stronger as they walked toward the center. They would have died from the coldness if they didn't control their temperature through internal energy. Soon, they were at the center of the coldness. Yoan moaned silently as he found a beautiful woman at the center of the coldness, with long silver hair and pale white skin even whiter than Chun Yoan. The unique beauty even felt mysterious in some way. The woman was moving somewhere with her eyes not focusing correctly. And what was more surprising was, the energy is vast. The energy that revolved around her was so powerful that the air around was freezing. And it froze up debris that was floating as it followed her path. The ground that she walked past was frozen white, creating a path of white frost as she walked through. Yogan! Bunwang shouted toward the silver-haired woman. Her sister's name was Yogan. But the woman seemed like she couldn't hear and kept on walking. She's gone mad. I'll have to seal her down so I can block the energy flow. Wait. Yoan felt something was off and tried to stop Bunwang, but Bunwang had already started running toward his sister. Bunwang already stopped her sister from going berserk multiple times. But the amount of power unleashed this time was much greater. It's too cold. He was protecting his body by using all of his energy, but it was still too cold. Yogan! It's me! Wake up! Bunwang called out to her at close range, but Yogan kept on walking. Ugh! Bunwang then walked past the ice debris floating around her and tried to seal her down. I'm sorry. I'll have to put you to sleep for a moment. He felt his skin being cut off from the ice debris that he walked past. After going through all that, he reached out to his sister to put her down. UHG. Yogan suddenly turned against Bunwang and looked straight at him. Her eyes had turned white. She was his sister, but it was still a scary sight. Yogan then grabbed Bunwang's wrist. At that moment, powerful yin energy began to seep into Bunwang and his wrist began to freeze up. Stop! Stop it! He tried to bring up internal energy to defend, but nothing worked. Bunwang shouted at his sister to stop, but she didn't listen. Didemi. I have no choice. Bunwang figured he might freeze to death, so sent internal energy into his foot to kick her away. He still couldn't use his greatsword against his sister. But his choice was wrong. His kick did not reach Yogan as a barrier formed with ice stopped his kick. What? Yogan reached out toward Bunwang and held his other shoulder. Cold energy seeped into his shoulder and Bunwang became terrified. Aorarg. The sharp pain of his body freezing up made Bunwang scream. Yogan went berserk and didn't seem to recognize her brother. At this rate, Bunwang was going to die at hands of his own sister. It was then. Someone broke through ice debris surrounding her and came down from the air. Yogan's whitened eyes turned against the person. You should stop here. It was Chun Yoan. Yogan took her hands off from Bunwang's wrist and swung at Yoan. But Yoan easily snatched her hand. Yogan tried to send cold energy down to Yoan to attack. Watch out. Bunwang shouted. However, Yogan seemed to be shocked when the powerful energy was blocking her energy from entering the body. Her wrist that was grabbed even became hot. I told you to stop. Yoan spoke and quickly thrust his palm at her chest. Chapter 318. Cold Blood Blockage. Part 3. Yoan's left hand reached toward Yogan's chest to seal her down. But when his hand almost reached her chest, white frost gathered up and created an ice barrier around her. Yoan narrowed his eyes. This is interesting. Yoan stopped and sent energy into his hand to penetrate through the ice barrier at once. But Yogan then let go of Bunwang in that short moment and swung her hand against Yoan. This time, it wasn't done to freeze him directly. With his hand swinging through the air, cold air stormed up and pushed Bunwang and Chun Yoan toward the back. Aarg. Bunwang, who almost had two of his arms frozen, couldn't balance himself and was thrown back. Baki ran toward him and grabbed him before he fell. Ugh. Baki did grab him, but the energy still pushed both of them way back. This is powerful energy. Baki knew the power was strong just by looking at the air churning around, but this was beyond his imagination. He had to drag it out almost 20 steps to stop. Thank you. Bunwang showed his gratitude. Baki then realized Bunwang was very straight in the way he expressed his emotions. Ugh. Bunwang then looked down at his frozen arms. He protected them with his internal energy, but the skin was completely frozen. Baki looked at Bunwang in pain and silently sent his energy into the frozen body part to help him increase his temperature. You're a good man. Baki raised his eyebrow at Bunwang's compliment and answered, stop jabbering and concentrate on sending out the energy. But we have no time to waste. It will be worse if we don't stop my sister. His sister went berserk once before, but his father was here, so it was possible to seal her down before her in-chi was completely exposed. But now, his father was not here. Replenishing her yang through medicine is only temporary. You need to solve it with a definite solution or she will soon go berserk. Gammayan warned So, saying that she wasn't good enough to heal his sister. Gammayan said only the godly doctor would be able to heal her, so his father had been traveling through the lands of Yulin for over a year. Yet he couldn't find her yet. Of course, his father had to hide his identity, so it only made things harder. I didn't think it would be this bad. This amount of energy was beyond what Bunwang could ever be prepared for, and required his father to solve it. But that's when he saw something amazing. What? Chun Yoan, who Bunwang thought would have been thrown back, was only pushed back 5 steps and was using his white blade to defend the cold energy. I expected him to be strong, but this was more than he thought. He didn't think it to be that way, but he kept comparing Yoan to his father. Baki mumbled, if he can't stop it, then we are in trouble. But I doubt that will be the case. Baki couldn't imagine Chun Yoan losing ever since they met. Even if he was against cold blood blockage, Baki believed that their Chun Yoan could lose to no one. So he considers that man like how I consider my father. Bunwang saw the strong trust and concentrated on himself to send out the cold energy. As Yoan continued to withstand the cold energy, Yogan's white eyes began to turn transparent. Then the air around her began to grow more violent and created white frost all over the place. The frost that only surrounded her now began to increase in radius. Yoan frowned. Is her energy really infinite? It was hard to believe that her energy was only growing even when it was already so powerful. Yogan then reached out toward the air. The frost gathered up in the air and became hundreds of ice particles. Ugh. Yoan's grimness turned to surprise. Yogan was showing terrifying skills. It was hard to believe that she was just going mad. What is that? Baki and Bunwang also became shocked. They weren't sure if they were actually looking at a normal person. Yoan was now trapped within the ice particles that circled him. How can he protect himself from that? Bunwang thought about himself being inside and concluded that he would die if he was in there. That's when Yogan gestured, grabbing her hand, and hundreds of ice immediately came down on Yoan. "No!" Baki shouted with shock. But it was too late. Hundreds of ice flew from all sides, trying to skew Yoan. But Yoan's choice of action was very simple. "Nano, activate augmented reality. Show me the pathway of all ice particles coming in." Activating augmented reality on user site. Nano's voice rang through his head and Yoan saw augmented reality being activated over his eyes. Calculating the direction of all projectiles and projecting. White light began to beam through the ice particles and soon created red lines of the ice particles' movements. "I see it." With each direction being drawn, Yoan was able to see the way out, whereas it wasn't visible with naked eyes. Yoan jumped out and charged through. Becoming a supreme level warrior made him very fast, and he saw ice particles coming at him slowly in his eyes. Yoan swung his white dragon blade to destroy the ice particles on the way. He couldn't stand still to protect himself from every ice particle, so he chose to charge forward and only defend against those coming from the front and the sides. His choice was correct. All the ice particles were shattered away as soon as they touched the blade. Yoan charged through ice prison coming down upon him. It's amazing!" Bunwang shouted with astonishment. He didn't think Yoan would try to charge through like that. It was a bold move. As Yoan shot past it, he was relieved that his guess was correct. The ice particles do not have energy in them. Chapter 319. Cold Blood Blockage. Part 4. The way it worked looked like air sword, but it was different. Yogan was just forming ice through her vast energy and threw at him. This would have been different if all of that ice wielded energy. Yogan's eyes shook as she noticed Yoan coming straight toward her. She reached out with her another hand and gestured as if she raised it. Then the ground began to shake and a large ice wall was pulled up from the ground. "I can't believe it." Yogan's powers that she used while her silver hair fluttered was astonishing. It looked like she was an ice witch. But this skill actually worked against her. Her sight was blocked and all ice particles that went after Yoan stopped it. This is the chance. Yoan then swung his white dragon blade toward the ice wall. Blue force chi easily cut down the ice wall and made it fall to the ground. Yoan then shot past through the wall. "You're late." Yogan tried to increase powerful energy to defend, but Yoan's hand was faster this time. His left hand struck her chest's blood point. With the blood point stopping the flow of energy, the coldness began to subside. What kind of yin chi can be this strong? Yoan never used more than 50% of his energy even when he sealed a superior master-level warrior. But he had to use 70% and he still couldn't stop all of her energy. Her body still flinched and Yoan increased his energy to 90% so that she would pass out. That's when Yogan's eyelids closed and she passed out. Yoan sighed in relief. Phew. He finally calmed her down. Baki and Bunwang quickly came up to them and Bunwang spoke excitedly. "I didn't think you would really put her down. It's amazing." He was ready to see his sister going berserk until his father returned, but he was worried that she might die before his father came. It was fortunate that she was stopped before she used all of her energy. He's not in good shape either. Bunwang's right arm was moving awkwardly. Baki helped him recover by sending energy, but Bunwang's skin now turned purple, so it seemed that treatment was necessary. But Yogan was in worse shape. With the flow of yin chi being blocked, her veins were expanding. This meant her yin chi was still going berserk within her. Yoan spoke to Baki. "We have to move down to the outpost quickly." It was likely that the seal would be broken if she was left like this. Baki nodded and Yoan picked up Yogan over his shoulder. Her yin chi was still coming out, so it was too dangerous for Baki to hold her. What are you going to do with my sister?" "I'm taking her to Gammayan's grandmother." "Oh. But even if her grandmother is a good doctor, I don't think she can treat my sister in that state." Bunwang spoke worryingly. It seemed she now needed proper treatment as all other things just looked like a temporary solution. Yoan then spoke to Bunwang. "Well, if the godly doctor cannot heal her, then she's done. We have to hurry, so stay close." What? The godly doctor?" Yoan then jumped out. Bunwang was dumbfounded and Baki spoke to him. Gammayan was the granddaughter of the godly doctor. "What?" Buwang became shocked. The godly doctor that he and his father had searched for a long time was actually Gammayan's grandmother. He was also dumbfounded that Gammayan never told him that fact, even when he went to her multiple times for the medicine. "She should have told me earlier." The reason why Gam Mayan did not tell them this was because it was Gam Mayan's medicine that stopped Bunwang's father from trying to wipe out the Yongo family. There's no time to be shocked. Let's go. Baki spoke and ran, and Bunwang followed them. He had to save his sister first. As soon as Yoan got back to the others at the mountain, they went down to the docks. They just needed to cross the Yellow River and go south toward the demonic cult's outpost at the northern end of the Honam region. The godly Dr. Gamrosu, Munku, and Ho Sangwa must have been waiting there. It was a dark night, they probably couldn't get a boat, but luckily they were able to find a boat that went across the river. After crossing the river, they all moved through the stepping skill and soon arrived at the outpost of the demonic cult. Greetings, my lord. Glory to the demonic cult. Glory to the demonic cult. It was now early morning, but Yoan's visit had every cultist of the outpost coming out and bowing down toward their lord. Hundreds of cultists bowing down made their entrance grand. El Lord of the demonic cult? Bunwang became shocked. He did become curious when Yoan moved into the Honam region, which was controlled by the demonic cult, and even went straight into their outpost. He didn't imagine that Yoan was the lord of the demonic cult itself. I knew it. He must have gone through body reconstruction. The misunderstanding only grew stronger. Yogan wasn't in good shape, so Yoan quickly asked where the godly doctor was at. She's at the guest house right now. This way please. One of the cultists guided them through the outpost and Yoan followed. He then talked to Yang Danwa and Baki. You two wait in another building with the baby and the body. I see. Understood, my lord. Yes, my lord. They had to treat Yogan first, so there was no time to explain what happened at the Yongo family's village to Gamrosu yet. Yoan made Yang Danwa and Baki wait outside so that it could be dealt with later. Oh, there they are. The cultist pointed at the building patio where Gamrosu, Munku, and Ho Sangwa were eating breakfast. Munku and Ho Sangwa were protecting her closely at all times. Oh, my lord. Munku was glad to see Yoan appearing in mourning and got up immediately and ran down. Huh? She then noticed the silver-haired beautiful woman Yogan. She frowned and asked, who is that? Chapter 320. Cold Blood Blockage. Part 5. There was a distinct scent to every person, whether it was coming from the skin or the clothes. It was something that could only be recognized by others. As such, she also had a unique kind of feeling that warriors who were trained in internal energy could feel its difference. Its sense to sense such energy increased, one became more powerful. Warriors at the Supreme Master level interacted with the energy of the environment, so it was possible to sense the trace of Qi, and the Colding Qi made a trace across the Yellow River. There was one man who was running through with enormous speed. He had curly long hair and a short beard. His face was filled with wrinkles. He was running through while having his hands gathered at the back, but his body did lose balance as he ran through. Southwest. The trace of Qi was going in that direction. He was running through, but he couldn't yet get to the culprit who kidnapped his children. Whoever it is, I will never forgive you. I will have you pay the price of taking my children. His eyes were cold, but he was boiling from the inside. When Wang Jing returned from his travel, he found his hideout destroyed with ice all over the place, and he realized his daughter had gone berserk and was stopped by an unknown warrior and became concerned. That place. He then saw a large mansion in his eyes. On the gate, it read the demonic cult on it. The cold trace continued into the outpost of the demonic cult. The man grimaced. They were behind it. It was unexpected, but he didn't care. There was no one he feared in this world anyway, so he charged toward the outpost. At the same time, Gamrosu was tending to Yogan, the beautiful silver-haired woman. Gamrosu had to stop eating her breakfast and tend to her patient as Yoan said it was urgent. Her veins were expanding and cold air emanated from her, showing that Yogan wasn't in good shape. Munku didn't look all that well either. She asked Yoan who she was, but Yoan just said Yogan was in danger and quickly asked the godly doctor to watch over her. Munku was now building up the imagination within her. Yogan was the most beautiful woman that Munku had ever seen in her life, so she couldn't just consider her a patient. Why did the Lord bring her here? She was very curious and concerned. It was Hubong who answered her questions instead. Hubong realized Munku was worried about a mysterious beautiful silver-haired woman and explained what happened. So he brought her here to have them become friendly with us. Oh, I see. Phew, yeah, haha. I knew he wouldn't be like that and all, hee. She brightened up when he told her. The Yoan she knew was tempted by the beauty of a woman. It was embarrassing that she became jealous. But what Hubong said later made Munku grim again. It's not certain yet, but I read from some book that cold blood blockage will need the opposite energy, or a man with strong yang energy to keep the balance. Keep balance? Yang? You know, like how a man and woman find love, and the man's burning st? What? Munku's face reddened as if she would explode and told Hubong to stop. Hubong always had all kinds of weird knowledge. That seemed Hubong was actually teasing her as he was smiling. He was playing with me. Ugh. Ha, Gamrosu sighed. The air around Yogan was harshly cold. After enduring such coldness, Gamrosu finished tending to her and spoke. Cold blood blockage. The godly doctor knew right away what the disease was. I never thought I would witness this disease ever again in my life. It seemed like it wasn't her first time tending to a patient with said disease. Bunwang asked worriedly, is it bad? I don't know who did this, but someone created a medicine to replenish her yang qi. That prolonged her life. Honestly, it's hard to live past 20 with this disease. Your granddaughter made that. The one who made the medicine was Gam Mayan, but Bunwang did not say it. Yoan told him to stay silent about most of the things he knew if Buwang wanted to get help. What you just said, did you heal someone with this disease before? Gamrosu became hesitant at Yoan's question and shook her head. What? What are you talking about? Bunwang trusted that the godly doctor, the best doctor in Yulin, would be able to heal his sister. But Gamrosu's reaction seemed very untrustworthy. Bunwang raised his voice and Gamrosu explained, hey, young man. Listen to me till the end. ? I first came across this disease 30 years ago. I knew how this could be healed at the time, of course. You know how to heal it? Do you think I wouldn't know? It's just that this disease can be passed down in martial artists who train in internal energy, so that's why it's hard. 30 years ago, Gamrosu met a woman with cold blood blockage. Her hair turned silver with her yin qi going mad, so Gamrosu studied hard and finally found out how to deal with it. But this method required more than just medical practice. It required internal energy that was equally powerful in yang qi to penetrate the blocked blood circulation within it. Do you think it's easy to find ones with such yang qi that can deal with an infinite amount of yin qi? So, you couldn't find one? I actually did. The godly doctor used all of her connections to find a powerful warrior, the leader of Sorum, monk Guher, to help. Guher was a respected monk of all martial artists from the forces of justice who valued life over all things and accepted to help. Why did you fail then? Monk Guher had powerful yang qi within him. But it was the woman's body that couldn't endure it. When Guher's powerful energy penetrated through the 9 blockages within the woman's body, powerful yang qi began to affect her body adversely. So, she died with all of her veins exploding through the energy. It wasn't the monk's fault, but he resigned from leadership after blaming himself. Huh? I think I heard about that incident. Mun Ku heard this when she was young from her grandfather Mun Yun. The incident of Monk Guher, one of the top 5 warriors and leader of Sorum, resigning from the leadership and disappearing from Yulin was huge news. It was the first time I could not save someone in my long years of medical practice. There was no use even for the godly doctor. If she was a martial artist and knew about internal energy, she would have noticed the problem, but this was first for her, so she couldn't save the person's life. Then what you thought of is wrong. You don't know how to heal her. Bunwang spoke and Gamrosu shook her head. I can't call myself doctor if I didn't study on what I failed to cure once. I found out the problem with my treatment later. Chapter 321. Cold blood blockage. Part 6. Monk Guher told the godly doctor that by sending in internal energy to penetrate the blockage, the yin qi reacted to fight back, making Guher increase the energy that was sent in. This was why the two energies colliding with each other grew too powerful for the woman to endure it. Then what would be the way? If it isn't possible to send in the energy, there are 2 other ways. Both have flaws. What is it? One way is impossible right now, and another one. I don't think she nor you will like the way it will be done. What would be the way that he and his sister would not want? Bunwang asked, and what is that way? It's very weird, but the starting point of energy explosion starts toward the vaginal area. Vaginal? Bunwang's face became grim. He was able to understand what Gamrosu was saying. Why you mean? Yes. It is a way to find a balance between yin and yang to decrease its reaction to have it take yang qi without a fight. With Gamrosu's words, Hubong became shocked and mumbled, huh? Why you mean the man's hot st? Hubong. Oops. Mun Ku became red and shouted and Hubong grabbed his mouth to stop. Mun Ku became worried. Hubong's teasing seemed to turning into reality. Ugh hi. Hubong. Mun Ku glared at Hubong. His words had become reality. One must have powerful yang qi in order to take the balance. Gamrosu then glanced toward Chen Youan as she spoke. The only warrior powerful enough to overpower Yogan who went berserk was Chen Youan, so her reaction was natural. Youan frowned at the unexpected treatment method and asked, "What is the other way that's impossible?" That's when Youan suddenly got up before he heard Gamrosu's answer. He was looking towards a place with a grim look. It was toward the outpost. It's astounding. The astounding power was coming from that direction. If no one here yet realized its power, it meant the enemy was powerful enough that only Chen Youan could sense it. It felt more dangerous than when Yogan went berserk. "What is it, my lord?" Munku got up with a curious look and Youan warned everyone else. "Everyone, stay here and don't move." Youan then jumped out. At the outpost, the gatekeepers were bleeding as they fell on the ground. Even the gatekeepers of this outpost were highly trained warriors, but they were helpless against the intruder. Through the gate, there was a large yard with over 40 warriors surrounding the middle-aged man with curly hair and a beard. Outpost leader Jiheng shouted to him. "You should step back. Do you know where this is?" Jiheng felt sweat running down his forehead. The intruder wasn't using any special energy, but his presence was enough to make all the warriors terrified. Who is this man? The area had been peaceful ever since the cult allied with the Yulin clan. It was shocking to find this monstrous man coming in here. "Let me warn you instead. If you don't want to end up like this, bring my children that you kidnapped." There were 4 warriors on the ground in front of the man. They charged at him when the man came into the gate, but they were quickly subdued in a matter of seconds. Jiheng shouted, "Why are you looking for your children here? Who are you anyway?" The man raised his eyebrow disgust. He still felt the cold energy within the buildings. "So, you will lie? Then I will find them myself." The man took off his foot and Jiheng signaled his warriors. "Attack!" All warriors immediately charged against the man. The middle-aged man then swung his hand and all the swords that the warriors held in their hands got out of their hand. "Ha! Am I sword?" Their swords then turned in the air and were aimed back at them. Air sword. All warriors became pale. They figured they were against powerful warrior, but they didn't realize they were against a supreme master level warrior. Why is such a powerful warrior attacking our outpost? Even Jiheng couldn't understand what was going on. He was able to barely hold on to his sword from being flown up, but all the other warriors were now being aimed at by their own swords. It's hard to control all of them, but this is enough. Even if it was a supreme master level warrior, controlling more than 12 swords at once was impossible. But he wasn't using a formation, so he only swung and stabbed, and this amount was enough. This was only done to threaten them. "This is the final warning. I will kill anyone who stands in my way." The man warned again. He knew that killing this many warriors would have the cult come after him, so he was giving them a chance. But there was no way warriors who always stayed at war would succumb to such a threat. Besides, there was the sky of the cult residing inside today. "Fool! You are underestimating us. Do you think cultists of the great demonic cult will bend to your threat?" Jiheng shouted and the man shook his head. He gave them the choice to leave, but that had been thrown out the window. "Fools!" The man then raised his hand and the swords were ready. "You have chosen then. Goodbye." The man swung and the swords then tried to strike down the warriors. Some closed their eyes while some tried to dodge. But an unexpected thing happened. All swords moved barely an inch and stopped. What? They thought maybe the man had changed his mind, but it seemed that wasn't the case. The man was shaking his hand as if someone was holding on to his hand. What is going on? He didn't imagine seeing such a thing. The air sword was almost taken away from his control. He tried to bring up more energy to overpower it, but it was no use. Someone is infiltrating into my connection to the swords. That was the only possible explanation. That's when the man saw someone coming out from the mansion. It was a young man with long black hair with pale white skin. It was Chen Youan. Is that him who's doing this? The man looked at him. Youan heard Nano speaking to him. Completed infiltrating into control system. Strike back, Nano. Imitating attack. Youan's eyes shook and the control of air sword was now on Youan. Youan then pushed out his sword, and all 40 swords immediately turned toward the man. Ugh. The man became dumbfounded. It was the first time he lost control over air sword in the middle of controlling them.